The Legend of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Part 1, Chapter 65, Trapped. Written and performed by Joseph Chambers and based on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic books created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. April O'Neil had never realised in her life that you could feel both ridiculously alive and moments away from death at the same time. Right now, that would be the only way to describe her state of ridiculous fear and immense adrenaline. She was running through perceivably limitless corridors at breakneck speeds. She had somehow managed to remember how to run like a ninja, even though she was honestly too fearful to turn around and fight like one. She had no idea how long she could keep this up for. She had severe pains in her legs and chest. She also felt like she was about to be sick, but a distant thought of imminent doom kept her running despite this. She sped around a corner with nearly 20 ninjas behind her and decided that she needed to slow down her predators. She began this by opening a cupboard door which struck two of the older ninjas in the face as they failed to stop in time. She was out of breath, but despite this felt the need to yell an apology to them. She turned around yet another corner and saw not a corridor but a list of opportunities. A mop and bucket had been left by a door by a cleaner, and April quickly knocked them over to provide the floor with a coating of dirty, soapy water. Whilst this failed to actually trip anyone up, it did make the ninjas take a slower, more cautious journey along that corridor till they passed the puddle. She now had a 5-second distance between them, but she needed more if she was to take a break and avoid any further lactic acid build-up from her aching muscles. She noticed her chance as she raced up a flight of stairs and turned right. She encountered and ran full pelt into an elderly Japanese woman who was wearing an apron and carrying around a trolley that was stacked to the brim with various cleaning products. The woman noticed April and began to scream, "Hajime! Unagi!" But it was too late, and April had already shoved past the woman and knocked her trolley over, to cause a trip hazard for her ever-growing number of pursuers. This caused a massive pile-up of ninjas and was enough of a distraction for April to dart into a nearby office before anyone could spot her. Then all of a sudden, and with no warning, the life of April O'Neil was torn apart, irreparably and forevermore. April, Donatello and Raphael's distraction of most of the guards and staff had served Leonardo and Master Splinter well in their mission to the mystery room. They had decided that the best approach to reach the room without detection was to crawl through the air vents. It was not easy to look at a map whilst on your hands and knees, and despite trying to keep a good grip on it, Leonardo got distracted by worrying about the many million ways they could get caught and forgot to focus on their present situation. This resulted in the map floating down through a grill and landing gracefully at the feet of a ridiculously muscular man with multiple scars and a standard TCRI uniform. The man grunted suspiciously at the paper and then cocked his head up towards the ceiling. Leonardo and Splinter put all they could into making a hasty retreat from the section, but the guard did catch the briefest flash of green out of the corner of his eye. He did not need telling twice to phone for security, and shortly after, several metal hatches closed in front of and behind Leonardo and Master Splinter. "Oh, that's unfortunate," Master Splinter said. All the while, Raphael and Donatello were cornered, in every sense of the word. They were physically cornered, as they were backed up against a pile of crates and surrounded by ninjas. They were intellectually cornered, as they were desperately trying to think of a way to justify their presence that they had by all accounts broken in. And they were emotionally cornered, as both their brains were locked onto panicking mode and therefore unable to find a comprehensible plan for what they were going to do next. "Wait a minute," Donatello began as the ninjas loomed ever closer. "How on earth was killing those people at the Emerald Eagle saving the world? How do you explain all those tortured animals in the factory that burned down?" "That is a means to an end," the girl said. Those were necessary evils in building a better tomorrow. Their minds are twisted beyond reason, Donnie. You know what we gotta do, right? Raphael whispered to his brother as the ninjas took another step closer to them. I suppose we really have no choice, Donatello accepted. Together, the boys drew their weapons and set about slashing and hacking through the crowd to get to their goal of the computer terminals. Donatello began to use his bow to block an attack by a young female ninja by lifting his bow above his head horizontally to knock her arms carrying her small dagger-like tanto upwards and cause her to unbalance. The girl seemed undaunted by this and continued to swish her tanto wildly but with steely precision. Donatello was hesitantly careful to avoid her blade, having seen the damage done to Raphael previously, and sprung backwards in an almost prancing-like motion before jabbing his bow into the side of the girl's knee. It missed, and the girl instead grabbed Donatello's bow and pulled it in towards her, forcing him to fall inwards to her feet. However, just as the kunoichi was about to stomp her large black leather boots all over Donatello, Raphael punched and shoved his opponents out of the way before leaping onto his brother's assaulter. He thrust his sais out in front of him, handle him first, and caught the young ninja by surprise. Raphael then used his sai to block the girl's attacks by swinging his sais out, upside down and vertically to his side. The girl then assaulted from above, slashing her tanto straight downwards, with the result of Raphael hurriedly arranging his sais in a diagonal crossed arrangement above his head and pushing upwards. This resulted in a moment of great strain between the two combatants. They both bared their teeth and began to grunt with rage and effort, until Raphael decided to end the moment and simply struck his knee into her stomach. He then, as she was winded, somersaulted over her. Whilst all this had been going on, the two boys had been gradually but surely moving towards the doors to access the rest of the warehouse. Now! Donatello screeched at the top of his lungs. At this point, both turtles stopped fighting and ran full pelt for the doors. Raphael then kicked the door open, allowed his brother through, and on the other side of the door pushed a large cupboard in front of the door and put a nearby filing cabinet on top of this before fleeing into the vast TCRI complex.